You know those days. The ones where you wake up and just the sheer weight of everything feels kind of crushing. A
Hmm.
challenge at work, maybe a problem at home, or just that general feeling that things are, well, hard.
Yeah.
You feel overwhelmed, totally drained, and the idea of just putting on a brave face feels almost impossible.
Right.
Is there something real behind navigating that feeling, beyond just pretending things are okay?
That feeling of being
Oh,
overwhelmed, yeah, that
okay.
heaviness, it's incredibly common. And you're right, simply thinking happy thoughts,
Mhm.
it often doesn't cut it, does it?
Exactly. That's why this deep dive is so fascinating, I think. We've pulled together a whole stack of sources, psychological research papers, practical guides, even stuff from online community discussions.
The real mix.
Yeah, all looking at what happens when we try to see the good, even when life feels genuinely difficult. This isn't about like ignoring reality.
Yeah.
It's about understanding and cultivating the emotion of optimism as a really powerful tool.
hmm And we're going to unpack what these sources reveal. What optimism truly is, its, well, surprising impact on everything from your health to your ability to achieve goals.
Okay.
And maybe most importantly, concrete, actionable ways you can actively build it. We pulled out the key insights specifically for you from all this material. So let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with the basics because the sources really clarify what optimism is and maybe just as importantly, what it isn't.
Good place to start.
Okay, so one definition that kept popping up is that optimism is the belief good things will happen, even when you're, smack in the middle of challenges.
Right. And it's also about focusing on positive aspects, believing you actually have the capacity to influence your circumstances.
That second part feels really important.
It is key
Oh.
because it's not just passive wishing, right? The sources describe it as an active practice. It takes conscious effort.
Ah, okay.
It's about engaging with the difficulty, not
Mhm.
just sort of hoping it vanishes.
So it's less about a feeling you just magically have and more about a stance you actively take.
Precisely. Yeah, it's a way of orienting yourself towards the future and even towards your current situation.
Okay.
Now, equally important is what it isn't. Several sources really caution against unhealthy extremes.
Like?
Well, it's not unrealistic pessimism, the kind that just blows every negative possibility way out of proportion.
Okay. Avoids the doom spiral.
Right. And it's certainly not unrealistic optimism either. One source described that as this almost magical belief that, like, the universe will just hand you success without any real effort.
Ah, the kind of optimism that might lead you to jump off a building because you believe you'll fly.
Chuckles slightly. A rather extreme example, yes, but it illustrates the point. Realistic optimism, as the sources detail it, is perfectly compatible with acknowledging the difficult parts, even the grim parts, of reality.
So it's not blindness.
Not at all. It's about seeing the full picture, but then actively choosing to look for and highlight the positives, the opportunities, the things you can influence within that reality.
Mm.
It's recognizing the challenge, absolutely, but focusing your energy on finding solutions, on possibilities.
Okay, that distinction feels really crucial. It's not delusion, it's direction. It's where you point your focus.
Exactly.
So if that's what it is, why should we bother? I mean, what's the actual payoff for cultivating this perspective, especially when things feel tough?
Well, what's fascinating from the sources is just the sheer breadth of the impact. It's not just some nice-to-have feeling.
Okay.
On a really foundational level, it's strongly linked to better mental and emotional well-being. You see clear connections to lower stress levels, increased resilience when you face setbacks,
Alliance, yeah.
better overall psychological adjustment, and even reduced symptoms of depression. One source really highlighted that it helps you find benefits within stressful experiences.
Find benefits.
Hmm.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, it's a powerful coping mechanism. Instead of just feeling victimized by a bad event.
Right, the why me.
Exactly. An optimistic perspective helps you ask, okay, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Or how can I get through this? Or even, is there anything good that might come out of this eventually?
Okay. It shifts the internal dialogue from victimhood to agency, maybe.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It gives you back a sense of control, even if it's just control over your perspective.
Mm.
And the impact isn't just psychological. The sources also touch upon physical health.
Really? How so?
Well, while correlation isn't causation, let's be clear about that.
Sure.
Optimism is associated with better coping and adjustment in people facing really serious health challenges. Things like chronic pain, arthritis, spinal cord injuries, even cancer.
Wow.
There's also some intriguing research suggesting it might help with adhering to medical treatments. Maybe because the person is more focused on positive outcomes, more motivated.
That's pretty incredible, the idea that your mindset, your outlook, could actually influence how you manage a physical illness.
It really speaks to that powerful mind-body connection, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One source even quotes Carl Sagan, saying, "It is the brain that is the true health provider."
Mhm.
It just underscores that our internal state isn't somehow separate from our physical well-being.
Mhm.
They influence each other constantly.
Okay.
And get this, on an even broader scale, one source mentioned a survey after the 1998 French World Cup win,
Yeah.
noting a hypothesis about a singular, measurable drop in cardiovascular deaths on that specific day among French men.
You're kidding. So a massive wave of collective positive emotion might have actually had a physical health effect on a population level. That's wild.
It's an intriguing data point from the research, right? Shows how far-reaching the impact might potentially be.
Definitely.
But bringing it back to the individual level, optimism profoundly impacts goal pursuit and performance too.
Okay, how does that work?
The sources describe how it fosters a problem-solving mindset. If you believe good outcomes are possible, you're more likely to look for solutions.
Right, it increases effective coping and gives you a sense of control because you believe you can find a way.
Precisely. And this ties into something called hope theory, which came up in several sources.
Woke theory. Yeah.
It basically involves two key components. First is pathways,
Mm.
thinking that's the ability to find multiple routes to your goal, especially when you hit roadblocks.
So being flexible, finding alternatives.
Exactly. And the second is agency, thinking that's the belief in your own capacity and motivation to actually use those
The
pathways.
drive, the self-belief.
Yes. And people high in hope, who tend to be optimistic, they excel at both. They don't just have a goal. They actively generate strategies, and they feel empowered to pursue them.
So if plan A fails, instead of just giving up, you're already kind of brainstorming plan B, plan C, plan D.
And crucially, you have the internal engine, the agency, to actually try Plan B.
Right.
And this shows up in real-world results. Better academic achievement, improved athletic performance, even when you control for things like raw talent or intelligence.
That's significant.
Yeah. High hopers are less likely to get derailed by self-doubt or negative emotions when things get tough. They tend to stick with challenging tasks longer. They see setbacks not necessarily as failures, but more as information, feedback.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
If you're not constantly battling your own internal critic, you can focus that energy on the actual challenge in front of you.
Well put, yeah.
What about relationships? Does optimism help there too? Does it make you like nicer to be around?
Chuckles. Well, the sources do link optimism and hope to better social adjustment. It seems people tend to be drawn to individuals with higher levels of hope,
Why do you think that is?
likely because their energy is directed towards possibility, towards solutions, rather than just dwelling solely on problems. They might come across as more supportive, more positive, just generally more pleasant to interact with.
Okay, so the case is pretty clear then. Cultivating optimism can really touch almost every area of your life. Your internal state, your physical health, your ability to achieve things, even how you connect with others.
It seems so, based on this material.
But how? That's the big question, right? How do you actually do this, especially when you're in that tough moment we started with, when everything feels heavy?
Right. And this is where the practical strategies from the sources really come in. A really foundational one is something called cognitive reframing.
Okay, cognitive reframing, shifting your perspective.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. It's described as actively changing the way you view a situation, not by ignoring the reality of it, but by finding a different lens to look through.
A different lens.
Yeah, one source uses the analogy of a camera. You can choose to focus tightly on the foreground problem, or you can zoom out slightly to see the broader context, the background possibilities, maybe some resources you hadn't noticed.
I like that analogy.
And the sources really emphasize this. It's a trainable skill. It's not something you're just born with or without.
Okay, trainable. So how do you train your brain to do that? What are the techniques?
Well, it often starts with just noticing and then challenging those automatic negative thoughts that pop up.
The ones that just appear out of nowhere.
Yeah. Ask yourself, are they truly realistic? Or am I maybe catastrophizing a bit? Jumping to the worst case scenario.
Okay.
One technique mentioned is to play thought detective. Actively look for evidence for your negative thought, but also look for evidence against it. Be fair.
Putting it on trial.
Sort of. And explicitly ask yourself, is there another way, even just a slightly different way to look at this situation? It's about consciously disrupting that automatic negative loop.
So rather than just accepting, this is awful, I'm doomed, you actually pause and question it. Like, hang on, is that really true?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly that. And then you actively reframe. You try to phrase it differently. So maybe change, I'm terrible at this, to something like, okay, I'm still learning this and I can improve, or I'm not there yet, but I can get there.
Focusing on the process, the potential.
Right. Look for what you can control, even if it's small. Ask what you can learn from this situation.
Yeah.
Or is there any potential opportunity hidden in this challenge, even a tiny one?
Okay.
And practice positive self-talk, not in a fake Pollyanna kind of way, but with genuine self-compassion. If you stumble, acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't go as planned. But then remind yourself you're capable of getting back up, of trying again.
And connecting this back to that hope theory you mentioned, this reframing must help you find those pathways, right?
Yeah.
And build that sense of agency.
It absolutely does. Reframing a setback from "I failed" to "okay, I just received some feedback" immediately opens up pathways for learning and trying a different approach next time.
Yeah, I can see that.
It fuels the agency, the motivation to try again. And the sources really highlight that building optimism and hope isn't about expecting instant massive success.
Okay, good to know.
It's much more about committing to a process, starting small, and being patient and strategic. Like one person in an online discussion shared they talked about starting with just one push-up a day.
Just one.
Just one, but consistently, and how that built not just a tiny bit of physical strength, but this quiet, realistic optimism about the power of consistent effort over time. It proved something to themselves.
That really resonates. It's the cumulative effect of those small steps, isn't it? Not needing a giant leap right away.
Exactly. Small wins build a momentum and belief.
So what other daily practices did the sources recommend? Things people can actually do?
Gratitude came up again and again, and specifically as an active practice, not just a fleeting feeling.
How do you practice it?
Keeping a gratitude journal is a common recommendation. Just listing, say, 3 things each day that you're thankful for. And this part is important, briefly noting why they happened or why you appreciate them.
Why the why?
Because it forces you to think a bit deeper about the positive event or thing, reinforcing it. It essentially trains your brain to actively scan your environment and your experiences for positive data points.
Ah, so it's deliberately retraining your focus, counteracting that natural tendency to notice the negative stuff more.
Precisely. Our brains often have a negativity bias. It helped us survive way back when. Gratitude practice helps balance that out.
Okay, makes sense. What else?
Mindfulness and meditation were mentioned frequently. These practices help you stay present, which reduces that tendency to endlessly dwell on past problems or spin out about future anxieties.
Staying in the now.
Exactly. They teach you to observe your thoughts, including the negative ones, without immediately getting swept away by them or believing them unconditionally.
So you notice the thought, but don't have to grab onto it.
Right. You learn to acknowledge it. Ah, there's that worry again, and then gently let it go, redirecting your attention perhaps back to your breath or whatever you're doing.
It's kind of like learning to watch the negative thoughts float by like clouds, rather than getting caught up in the storm itself.
That's a great analogy, yeah. The sources also suggest visualizing your future in a positive way.
Like The Secret.
Chuckles. Well, maybe a more grounded version. An exercise called Picture Your Best Self involves intentionally envisioning a positive future state, seeing yourself having successfully navigated challenges, achieving meaningful goals.
How does that help?
It's not about magical thinking. It's about using visualization to build belief in possibilities, to clarify what you're working towards. And that can motivate action now, in the present.
Okay, so it's like intentionally building a mental blueprint for where you want to go, creating a positive pull.
Yes, using your mind to create a positive anchor point. And look, underpinning all these mental strategies are basic healthy habits. The sources are really clear on this.
The physical stuff.
Yes, your physical state deeply impacts your mental outlook. You can't separate them. So prioritizing regular exercise, which is a known mood booster and stress reducer,
Definitely.
eating a balanced diet, and getting sufficient restful sleep. Aiming for that 7-9 hours, having good sleep hygiene, these things are fundamental.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to feel optimistic about anything if you're constantly exhausted and running on empty, isn't it?
Absolutely. These aren't optional extras if you want to support your brain's capacity for positive thinking and resilience. They're foundational.
Got it. Anything else on the practical side?
One more key area is managing your environment.
Your surroundings.
Yes, both physical and digital. Sources note how constant exposure to, say, overwhelmingly Negative news cycles or toxic online interactions can really chip away at your perspective.
The doom scrolling effect.
Exactly. So set boundaries on media consumption. Maybe unfollow or mute accounts that consistently leave you feeling drained or angry. Try to curate your physical space and your digital feeds to be a bit more uplifting, or at least less draining.
So essentially, protect your mental and emotional energy by being more mindful of what you're letting in.
Precisely. And related to that, focus your energy on what you can actually influence, rather than stressing endlessly about things that are completely outside your control. It's a principle found in Stoicism and other philosophies, and the sources suggest it's highly practical for maintaining a more positive, proactive orientation.
Focus on your circle of control.
Yes, and let's be really clear, none of this means you have to somehow tough it out completely alone. That's not the message.
That's important.
Yeah, the sources absolutely acknowledge that building and maintaining optimism is challenging, especially when you're dealing with significant life difficulties. Seeking professional support like therapy or counseling is often mentioned as providing valuable tools and strategies tailored specifically to your situation.
Right. It's not about pure self-reliance to the point of isolation. Help is okay.
Not at all. Strong support networks and professional guidance are often key parts of building robust, long-term resilience.
Okay, so let's recap quickly. We've defined optimism as this active stance, this choice, not just a passive feeling. We've distinguished it from unrealistic
Right,
extremes.
the unhealthy ends of the spectrum.
We've explored its pretty profound impact across health, goals, relationships, and we've outlined a whole toolkit of concrete source-backed practices. Cognitive reframing, gratitude, mindfulness, visualization, basic self-care, managing your environment, and seeking support.
That covers the main ground. And maybe it's worth just briefly revisiting that idea of false hope that sometimes comes up.
Good point.
The sources are careful to clarify that realistic optimism isn't about ignoring negative feedback or setting completely impossible goals. People high in hope are actually pretty good at calibrating their expectations to reality.
So they adjust?
Yes. If a pathway clearly isn't working, they don't just pretend it is, they reassess and find another. It's not about setting absurdly high goals without being willing to put in the work. It's about setting challenging but attainable goals and then committing to the process needed to reach them.
Okay, so finding benefits in tough times, or believing you can improve and learn from mistakes that isn't some kind of delusion.
No, the research suggests it's actually a highly effective coping strategy, one that's linked to better long-term well-being and adjustment. It's hope, but it's grounded in action and reality testing.
So the real core takeaway then from this whole deep dive seems to be that seeing the good, finding possibility, maintaining that resilience when life feels hard. It isn't just a matter of luck or your fixed personality.
No, it really comes across as an active choice, supported by a set of learnable skills and practices that you can consciously cultivate over time. Optimism is less of a fixed trait, maybe, and more like a muscle.
A muscle you can deliberately strengthen.
Exactly. Through consistent practice.
And by consistently working that muscle, you're not just better equipped to, survive challenges, but potentially to actually grow stronger and maybe find unexpected opportunities because of them.
That's where the real potential power seems to lie, yes.
So maybe as you, our listener, go forward from this, consider this. How might committing to just one small, consistent practice we talked about today, maybe taking just one single moment to really notice something you're grateful for each day, or challenging just one automatic negative thought that pops up tomorrow, how might that begin to gently shift your perspective the next time you're facing a difficult day? What tiny step could you take starting now?
The power really is in the practice, however small it starts.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the emotion of optimism.
Until next time.